Oh, I up.
Oh, I didn't know it could go through. Oh, 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 oh. Slumber. Sleep. Why aren't they sleep? They're angry now. So this is Ajax's hole. Like I said, preferably don't spam or else I'll have to turn it off. Oh boy, here we go. Today, we are going to survive 100 days in Minecraft Hardcore. However, that is a bit too easy. So on top of trying to survive 100 days, I must kill one of every mob in Minecraft, including a warden, skeleton horse, and more. Now you may notice that my hearts are not hardcore hearts, and that is because I decided to do this on Bedrock Edition. The reason I did that was so I could play with you guys on stream, so feel free to stop by at any time. Consider subscribing as it helps out a ton, and I've been playing Minecraft for years, so this shouldn't be too hard. We start off in a forest, and I immediately see a Mooshroom island. We will have to remember that for later, but for now, let's collect some wood. I crafted a boat with the wood to get into a better position. While we boat over there, I am going to clarify what counts as a mob. I went to the Minecraft wiki and wrote down every mob currently in the game. Up on screen is every mob that we must kill before the end of the 100 days, with the exception of the skeleton horseman, spider jockey, and chicken jockey, since they are just combination of other mobs. I also will not be counting variations like the brown Mooshroom, since they are just the same mob but a different color. The first mob we hunted was a pig, followed by a poor innocent sheep. I started mining some stone for some basic tools, and while waiting for my food, I eliminated a cow and bonked a chicken. With a stable amount of food, I left the island. After a bit of exploring, I stumbled across a village, which is perfect, because we can get a cartographer to find a woodland mansion. We don't necessarily need to find a woodland mansion, but the supplies in the mansion would save us a bunch of time, and I can also get an early totem of undying. Fight! Fight! Nice. After sleeping through the night, I looted the blacksmith chest, but it was underwhelming. I then found some iron and made a pickaxe out of it. Also, while streaming, I had the terrible decision to have text-to-speech on for the first few hours, so we will be hearing some chat occasionally. Ayo.
Please craft a stone sword.
What's up, Sammy? You know, if I make a stone sword, then I can't make a stone axe, though. The dilemmas. I'll do an investment. I'll make a stone axe now. And
Make
just to make you
armor.
And to make you happy, I'll make a wooden sword. There you go.
I am bored.
What is this? I found conjoined twins. I need someone to verify it. Ooh, bunny! Assault. I'm gonna get rid of this one. Okay, I'm bad at killing bunnies. I hate this thing. Perish. After catching the rabbit, it was time to go mining. The text-to-speech was a bad idea. All I hear is the voices in my head. It hasn't yet. We now have more armor. Cool! Pro gamer tag back.
Not the other one.
Congratulations, Sammy. You have found the most annoying message I've heard today. Like I said, preferably don't spam or else I'll have to turn it off. Oh boy, here we go. After hearing text-to-speech for like 20 minutes, we eventually got full iron and I headed deeper into the caves. Alright, there's a llama down here. Sir, you happen to be in an area with creepers. I killed the wandering trader and his llamas to knock them off the list. On top of that, I was able to kill a slime, glow squid, and creeper. There was a mineshaft in the cave, but I went through the entire thing and I couldn't find a single cave spider, so we will have to find another mineshaft later. However, before I left, I was able to hunt down a bat and a spider, and some diamonds. I collected the diamonds and then found an enderman and a witch. I later started getting overwhelmed by all the mobs in the cave, but then a creeper helped me out. I was starting to get sick of the cave, so I started to head out, but I found 3 more diamonds. Sussy? Or Susie, I guess?
Susie.
Susie.
Haha.
Susie. It just takes one person,
You are
then
very
you guys have a combined
Susie.
brain cell of like 3. Now I'm just gonna hear Susie over and over again.
You are a Susie Baka. Let's go. I gained 3 brain cells, smiling face with sunglasses.
No, you didn't gain them. You're
Blue
sharing them
Susie.
with 8 other people.
Trademark.
That too.
Canada.
Canada. You guys are just saying words now. You guys stopped forming sentences. If you guys can form a sentence, like, together... Alright, here, I have a challenge for you guys.
Trademark.
I want you guys to make a sentence. Okay? While chat tries to form a sentence, I raided this new village we found for supplies. And then I made my way back home.
Your.
Okay? What's going on with your?
Mom.
Your mom? Sussy A. I don't think that's a sentence. Alright, sports. We got sports. A sports.
Her. Step bro.
While they continued their beautiful story, I ended up taming this horse that couldn't jump, eliminated a cat, and started to look for a place to build another portal. However, on the morning of day 7, I used the obsidian I found in a chest to make an enchanting table before a diamond pickaxe. I wanted to get fortune on a pickaxe to get as many diamonds as we could. I spent the rest of the day preparing enough food to go into the nether. While fishing, I killed a squid, but didn't kill the patrol since I didn't want a raid start. I did eventually find a lava pit and created a portal. I then found a turtle on the beach and attacked it. I apparently did not do much on day 9. Alright, let's see what Wolfie sent me. Oh my god. What in the world did you do?
Your Discord invite broke. If I hear Susie, I swear rolling on the floor laughing.
Why?
What is it
Why
now,
did you
master?
make
Our delivery
this?
is fragile.
Why? On day 10, I found some zombie villagers and killed them. After making a flint and steel, I was finally able to go into the nether. We started in a cave, so I had to mine out. Some piglins attacked me, so I had to take them out. I also got a gold helmet, so now I don't even have to worry about them anymore. Once I got out of the cave, I shot down a ghast and killed a magma cube. By the way, I'm not going to mention every time I kill a mob, but you'll see it on screen when it does happen. I started exploring the nether, and I stumbled across a piglin bastion out of nowhere. I decided not to risk it and moved on. I found this nether forest and eventually jumped into a nether fortress. See the difference between forest and fortress? I started killing some blazes and wither skeletons, but this happened. By the way, I am being really careful.
I remember when I was in those. Oh, I f***ed up.
Oh! I didn't know it could go through! No! Oh my god! After regenerating from the attack, I killed a bunch more blazes and wither skeletons, and since I almost died at the blaze spawner, it was time to head out of the nether for now. It is about time we end it. I think as soon as it hits 4 hours, so we still got another 12 minutes. Is he gonna say something like, do you want to put your Minecraft bed next to mine?
That's so cute.
It's a little late. The limit is when they're cult members, that's true. Oh my god.
Major's been good.
Major's been good. Major has been good. Major has not done cult stuff. Also,
we were doing innocent cult activities and he just had to include racism.
Yeah, that's actually like the funniest thing I've heard all day. The night was getting a bit rough, so I stayed inside and started making fire resist potions. However, I forgot to grab nether wart, so I was not able to. On day 13, I decided to let some of my viewers join the game, so we'll have random interactions with other players from now on. So I went back to the nether and searched the fortress again. While killing some mobs and wither skeletons, one of the wither skeletons dropped a head. How'd you get over here? Oh! How? For being that small, you do a full heart of damage. I did eventually find some nether warts, and since it took me so long to find them, I just headed out of there. I put in nerf dart in my nose. Very interesting. Is this like a past event, or is this a current event? Current. Yeah, we should be a little concerned for you about your nerf dart in the nostril. Okay, anyways. The bees have a positive KD against zombies so far. On day 16, I realized that we were low on coal and decided that we needed to go mining again. We found a bunch of surface coal and then explored this pretty cool cave. Do it. Don't kill whatever. Okay. Wait. Oh! Woo! Anyways. Besides finding the spider spawner, we basically just mined for 30 minutes. What can I give him? Here, want a leather helmet? That's how you want a leather helmet. Here, take some balls. What is it, zombie? Okay, I'll follow you. I have like only 100 hours, or what is it, 33 hours. Is it in my house again? It's a little too crowded now here. You can sleep there. Alright, zombie, here's what I'm gonna tell you. Sure, you can live out here. Zombie, here's what you gotta do now. You gotta find a cartographer. So here, I'll even give you a cartography table. So, let me find it. Here we go. So your job is to find a villager and give them cartography. And the goal with that is that we want to find a woodland mansion. We need to find a woodland mansion before anyone else does, because I need to kill one of each mob. Hi, Glitchin. No, Glitchin's fine. Oh, we're having an animal fight, Glow Squid versus Cow, in this playthrough. I don't know why I did that. This is like so useless to do. An attempt was made to kill an Enderman though, but it pussied out. Also, Glitchin died to the Enderman, so I looted his corpse. Don't tell him. I should mention that only I have a hardcore life, so if anyone dies in this, it doesn't matter. It only matters if I die. That is why there's no hardcore hearts. It's so they can respawn, because if I let's face it, if I let viewers join, they're gonna die. Set your spawn boom. What? What does that mean? Yeah, there's Glitchin. Set your spawn. Here, set it in here if you'd like. My house! Look what you've done! Oh well. Alright, there we go, we fixed it. Good as new. I also put horse kill _ childless. Why? Like, also, I need to kill a horse, so I'm sorry. You're childless. Dang it. I messed it up. I was gonna say you're fatherless and freaking I said childless. Bye. When the nether warts grew, I actually didn't make fire resist potions, and instead I made water breathing potions. The reason that I made water breathing potions was simply just to go into the water temple and kill the Elder Guardians. Before going there though, Zombie Lord got a cartographer villager, and the goal with this guy was to get a woodland mansion map. Like I said, woodland mansions have a lot of stuff, and it will save us time. Here, we'll have a temporary base. We'll make it look good later. It was now time to go into the water temple. I immediately noticed where an Elder Guardian was, so I made my way to it. I saw the sponge room and kept it in mind for later. And when I mean later, I mean on like day 94. This looks like a room an Elder Guardian would be in. Yeah. After killing the first Ender Guardian... Wait, what? Ender Guardian? After killing the first Elder Guardian, I found the gold room and quickly found another Elder Guardian. After killing that one, I drank milk to try and get to the last Elder Guardian, and... I gotta break in. Bruh. Second time was the charm, however, and we killed the last Elder Guardian. I grabbed a couple of the sponge blocks, but not enough for day 94, and then yoinked the gold blocks. I also killed a cod and a dolphin on my way home. You know, murdering every mob makes me sad. Hey Ajax, are you okay if I slaughter this chicken? Or would you like to reproduce this one with that one? Can I kill it? Murder. Of course, and I'll kill the other one. I did some housework by extending the sugarcane farm, and while mining gravel, I looked around their village and saw that Ajax was making the hole. Anyways, I made some arrows and it was now time to dig some sand. The cartographer got out of his cage, so I persuaded him back in. Get in your box. Ajax also happened to learn a disappearing trick. What? How are they laying in a bed? Oh, they're gone! Wait, why are they back? What? Ajax is doing some disappearing trick on me. If you're over here, can you like hit me once? Oh, well, there it is, the invisible man hitting me. And just start building it. I just see a castle building itself. After that experience, I bought the Woodland Explorer map off the cartographer and got ready to visit it. That same night, a skeleton with a powered bow started destroying me, and I was able to steal the bow from it. I repaired the bow and made more arrows. The next morning, Glitchin came home with a Mooshroom from the Mooshroom Island. We tied it to a post and went on to the Woodland Mansion. I tried looting this underwater ruin, but it had nothing, so I moved on. Don't know why I mentioned that. Like why did I mention something that just had no loot on it? What is wrong with me? The shoreline had a pillager outpost, which was great because I could kill an Olay and a pillager there. But then for some reason the cage was empty, so I killed a pillager and didn't even bother with the chest since typically it doesn't have good loot. I found the Savannah village shortly after and took a detour to give Glitchin a chance to catch up to me. I see someone's name, that Glitchin. Hi Glitchin. See, the first thing I see is him getting shot. The village didn't have anything, so I started walking to the Woodland Mansion because for some reason I thought it was really close. But when I found the second village, I realized that leaving my horse was a very dumb idea. But rather than going back and getting my horse, I killed a wolf instead, which I had to do eventually, so sorry dog lovers. But after stabbing the feline, I for some reason, when I was already halfway there, then decided to turn around and go back to my horse. My reasoning was simply because it would save me time on the way back, and in the long run it would be a better idea. But I don't know, it's kind of stupid to leave the horse in the first place. Anyways, I rode my horse from that Savannah village to the Woodland Mansion. On the way there, I saw another pillager outpost and I had the opportunity to kill an Olay this time. I got pelted with arrows for my sins, so I moved on and finally got to the Woodland Mansion. I created a horse bunker inside the mansion and started taking out some of the Vindicators. The first room had a chest with some bones, a bucket, and the cat music disc. I eradicated another Vindicator, and there was a room with jail cells and a bunch of Olays in it. There were also some trees in this room. I hit a dead end, so when I went to the other side... Why did I have to put a pun in the script? Anyways, after deciding to add a pun to the video, I got a free anvil from this room, and after taking out the Vindicators, I checked the secret chest in this room and found a golden apple. There was another just like it, and it also had a golden apple. Horse was impaled to death by a drown. That is so sad. My horse died. I've realized. I found one last chest on this first floor, and it had a diamond hoe. Diamond hoe. I guess we know what Vindicators do with their diamonds. Glitchin arrived at the mansion, and we went to the second floor. I gotta keep moving, because... that. I'm sleepy, too. Oh! There's a creeper in my face. We started cleaning out the place, and I got rid of an evoker. By the way, I should specify a rule about what counts as a mob kill. Basically, if I help in any way to kill something, it counts. So if I don't get the final hit on the mob, it's still okay, and it still counts. Because if it wasn't that way, we'd have some problems. You got the totem. Nice. Okay, I'm gonna keep it. My totem, because I am the one on the hardcore life. There wasn't much else on the second floor, so we moved on to the third floor. Because I think I have to kill a Ravager, so I guess I... Ooh! Ooh! Glitchin the Savior. I mean, like, I didn't get hit, but, like... Oh! 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 I told you it was 7.5 hearts! Oh my god! Okay, that's the second time I've been one-shot. Oh, I have a totem of undying. Okay. Okay, that wouldn't have been as bad. Oh, hey there! We used this evoker to spawn some Vexes, so I killed a Vex. Glitching gets taper faded. What does that mean? Alright, I've killed every mob now. Oh, you killed it! Nice! Oh, that's a Vex. We finished cleaning up the third floor, and sadly there was no secret rooms. You punched it back towards me. I then harvested some books so we could use them for the enchanting table back home. That's gonna save us a bunch of time of farming leather and sugarcane, so happy about that one. On our way home back though, this happened. Oh! Since Glitchin lost his boat, he decided to join me. While at the jungle, I did murder all the jungle animals just to get them out the way. Glitchin then lagged out while we were heading out, so I had to carry his parrot back home. Oh wait, your parrot likes me! Now I know you guys don't know it yet, but I don't like this parrot. I don't I don't like this parrot. This parrot will be the single most annoying mob on the server. Okay, hopefully that thing stays on me. If it doesn't, we're gonna have issues. That guy had the trident. What did I hit with my bow? Ow! What the heck? What? What? Okay. Oh! 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 Oh wait, the parrot is messing with me. The parrot is making baby zombie noises next to me. This is torture. Okay. I'm gonna get this thing off of me. I said off. Get off. I don't like your bird glitching. It makes it so I can't shoot arrows. Off. Off. Get off. Your bird is getting attached to me. I was trying to get a trident, and then it got stuck to me. And I can't get on. There we go. I got hit by a trident, I think. It's not getting on. I can't fight. I can't fight this. It's gonna kill me. I have no arrows. Everything is going wrong. I'm doing a lot for your bird, and he is not being nice back. Okay, let me on the boat. Not my horse. If my horse dies... The bird wasn't even with me. I'm gonna use my horse as a shield. I promise. Oh, it died. Thank you. And now it's making noises again. Yes! Oh my gosh, that was infuriating. Alright, and we're back home, hopefully. Your bird just left me. After getting jump scared by the phantom, I ran into the village and made an iron sword because mine broke earlier. Sorry, I need to get... Okay, there's his parrot. I'm gonna save his parrot first. Because this thing is the biggest pain. It's literally laughing at me. I don't know what noise it just made. Over here. Get on my shoulder! You are like some annoying cat. Oh my gosh. It's making spider noises. Glitchin, this is your house. Okay? Your spider parrot is in here. If it will get off my shoulder. I know you're not a zombie parrot, okay? Sit. Stay. Be a good parrot. After all that, I was finally able to rest after a stressful adventure with that bird. I dumped everything into a chest, and the next objective was to go mining to try and get a diamond pickaxe. I saw a giant water cave and thought it'd be a good idea to make a water breathing potion to explore it. But then something unexpected happens. During the editing section of this video, I could not find where in the world I killed a villager. I even told my Discord to go watch the stream VODs to find it, and no one could. However, as I was editing again, I finally found it. I don't know if I killed a villager yet, so I'm gonna kill this one. Now, because I can't stay focused on one task at a time, I created a community enchanting table. This is actually kind of funny because during this same stream, we ended up moving to the Woodland Mansion, so it was kind of a waste of time. Spoiler alert. That night, I grabbed the boat and dove into the sea, finally doing the plan I was gonna do yesterday. There was some iron down there, but I found something even better. An actual, regular cave, and this cave was pretty good. I only needed to find one diamond to make a pickaxe, so I dashed through the caverns and look! A diamond. I decided to stay a bit longer to explore these mine shafts, and I'm glad I did. Oh! That is cool. Also, I have been through 3 mine shafts and not seen a single cave spider, which would normally be an absolute blessing. But since I need to kill a single one, this is the 3rd mine shaft with no cave spiders. That's insanely lucky and unlucky at the same time. I was happy with the gear I got and left the same way I entered. My curiosity got the better of me, so I started exploring the water cave, and again, I'm glad I did, because we got more diamonds. When I got home, I obviously made a diamond pickaxe and checked the enchanting table for fortune, but it was just unbreaking and I wasn't feeling lucky. I started cycling the enchantments and got fortune 3 on the last enchantment. We might go... let's go... I see you, by the way, careful. Somebody has an invisibility potion. And I'm gonna go attack the invisible man. Come here. Oh yeah, it's fearful. Oh, wait, that's a wandering trader! That same night, I decided to go over to the Mooshroom Island. Mooshrooms are a great source of food, and I still needed to kill one. Mooshrooms don't spawn during the nighttime, so I waited until the morning, killed a few mooshrooms, and kidnapped one. Bye guys, just kidnapped a family. Wait, hang on. No, I killed the family, then kidnapped one. On the way home, I killed a salmon. I took the waterfall to get back up on land, but when I went to go grab a lead, the Mooshroom is gone. Did it really despawn? I'm not going back. Major Coulton wanted to start a sheep farm, so I went out and herded some sheep for him. It was going to be nice to have a sheep farm, because we could shear them in order to make beds to search for netherite. That night I decided to actually kill a phantom, and then this happened. Since there's... oh yeah, if you had to play a game for the rest of my life, it would be GTA 5.
Bruh.
Why are there creepers everywhere? Why? Like, I even heard it. I moved. I didn't even get hit by it. Why did it still explode? I'm sorry, Farmer Cole in here. Take a golden apple. I started looking for a good place to build a house, but didn't really like any of the places that I looked at. That was when we had the idea of moving to the Woodland Mansion. No one really felt like building their own house except for Ajax, who is making a hole. So we decided to just all move to the Woodland Mansion. Since I have a lot of stuff to move, I started working on an ender chest. However, I first made another diamond pickaxe so I could get silk touch and be able to actually carry the ender chest around. I got silk touch on my second try and mined the obsidian to craft the ender chest. Using my newly crafted ender chest, I decided to try and get a full set of diamond armor. I now had a fortune pickaxe, so it'll be easy, as long as we find some good diamond veins. However, I found my 5th one vein of diamonds. The fortune ended up giving me 2 diamonds, but that isn't enough for a full set. That cave was disappointing, so it's now time to pack up everything we could and start the move over to the Woodland Mansion. Why does this skeleton have a sword? Why did you give it a sword? I got a full ender chest and inventory worth of stuff and headed to the mansion. When I got to the mansion, I ran around the first floor trying to decide where my room would be. I lined myself up with the entrance of the mansion and mined this wall to discover a giant room behind it. This room was right next to the entrance of the mansion, so this will be my room. Boat. Okay. My boat just faced to the ground. I dumped all my stuff into a chest and decided to take a second trip to get the rest of my stuff. When I got back to my old home, I destroyed everything in it as an official symbol of me moving out. On the way back to the mansion, I found the jungle temple, but it sucked. I spent the next day plopping all my stuff down in my room. Major Coulton showed up that day and even claimed the room for his farming adventures. I then mined up everything in the room to give myself more space. I'm making a petting zoo. I made some fence gates to keep out a zombie horde and make it so nothing that spawns in the mansion can get into my room. The Woodland Mansion still had monsters in it, so living here was a bit risky. Why am I being attacked in my own house? We need to go upstairs and like clean up the zombies. That could have been a creeper and that could have been just an instant death. I spent the night in the storm trying to find a skeleton horse, but I couldn't find one. Skeleton horses are actually one of the rarest mobs in the game, so I wanted to find one, but sadly we couldn't. I did find a Cazalia tree while I was out, which means that there is a lush forest underground, so remember that for later. When I got home, I saw Major's petting zoo, which is kind of in the way and is kind of annoying. I mean, I'm pretty sure I destroy it later. But anyways, I don't know why you built it here. There's so many rooms in this house, and you put it on my front lawn. I went out and destroyed a couple of trees for wood, and Major was still adding on to his petting zoo that I'm pretty sure I destroyed later. Llama coming soon. I can't see it, sorry. Farmer Major's petting zoo. Here's some pork chop. Oh, wait, sorry. Also, can you please move your petting zoo somewhere else? This is... because I have to walk... I can't... because I always go this way, too. And then, like, I just run into a fence, Llama Land. Next, I went to the jail cells and decided to claim an LA. I brought it over to my room, but since I didn't want it following me anymore, I decided to put it on a lead. Can I put it on a lead? If I can, that's gonna save my life. No, don't take it! Give it back! I tied it up to Major's petting zoo, so at least it wasn't completely useless. I'll try and remember all the important things you've said today for the future. In the meantime, out. The baby, let's go. Why are you here? I started going around the mansion, placing signs on what we should do with each room. Honestly, we didn't do much with these signs except we found where we were going to put the stables, and later people used the signs to claim their rooms. I blocked off the attic since there was just a bunch of mobs up there, and I also blocked off the second floor for the same reason. The next morning, I started working on the stables. I was getting annoyed with my horse just being in a netherrack box, so I started making an archway for whatever reason. I then got some wood and put another archway. I then tore down this wall because I wanted to spend less time running around the mansion. But later, this room will become the enchanting room, so I actually will be building the wall back up, which is again a stupid thing I just did for no reason. Oh, and it looks like I break more of the walls. Great! Oh yeah, I was right. Yeah, whatever. I literally just filled it in 5 minutes later. Awesome, great. Anyways, I then placed down the enchanting table and tore up the carpet. I can't transition that. I just like broke a wall and fixed it. God dang it. Yeah, so the enchanting table was up and it was level 30. That's what I was trying to say, and I broke a wall for no reason and replaced it. I'm basically a master architect with my archways. This is what happens when it's 3 in the morning and I'm talking about breaking freaking walls. Anyways, day 36. I started on the stables. I silk touched a grass block and then replaced the floor with dirt. I then pretty much watched grass grow for the rest of the day. Honestly, again, not a productive day. Don't know what I was doing the last 2 days. 78.
Sorry, I can't stop the show.
Oh, it's so loud!
Oh, there's another one.
Day 37 involved me working on my room a bit. My goal was to make it a bit nicer, so I hanged up the wither skeleton skull and started placing some nether wart, which didn't really make the room look better, but it was productive. I then noticed that I could get looting 3 on my diamond sword, and that was the next objective. I decided to go mining again to get the last 3 levels, and while I was out, I was hoping to get a full set of diamond armor again. I found a really good looking cave, but it ended up just having a bunch of dead ends and water. When I got out of the cave, there was a village on the mountain. However, I just completely ignored it to go to another cave. But that cave was flooded with water like every other cave on this world. If I find another water cave, I'm gonna go back and make water breathing potions at this point. I should look up those guides on like, top 10 ways to mine in Minecraft now. I started getting shot at from snow biomes, so I went over and killed a stray. There ended up being a pretty good cave there, and so I started mining in it. I leaped down this giant waterfall and found some skulk down there. I never did research on this new update, so I was terrified of this place. I thought that the warden would just sneak up on me and kill me, so I took a long time before I started exploring it. Oh god, I heard a noise. Oh, I saw it blinking. I will come back to the skulk biome, but first I found my 4th mineshaft. I heard a spider through the walls, and so I looked for it because I still needed to kill a cave spider. I'm telling you, I cannot find a cave spider spawner the one time I want one. Ah! Just one. A singular cave spider. All I need. I don't want a horde of them, just one. One that has wandered away from its little nest, so I can slay it and leave. After about 10 minutes of searching, I finally got my wish and was able to kill a single cave spider. This is Mario Kart, so... Woo! That's a book. Is it gonna be a 1 bait again? Yay! I've had 7 1 baits now, I think. I mean, I know I'm not like Y-56, but jeez, still annoying. I honestly think I should just strip mine at this point. I then started strip mining, and let me just tell you, my chat thought I was cheating. I feel that, and I have to like strip mine through deep slate. This is terrible. Okay. So I don't want to strip mine, but it's already. I'm actually really happy I started strip mining. I just literally just random diamonds. I know it's like luck and all, but it's better luck than I've gotten into caves. Ooh. Yeah, this is the only issue with it. Well, okay. This is the second time that I decided to mine somewhere and this happened. If that lava wasn't there, I would have missed that. Look how close that was to me. When you kill the wither, make it mine for you. Oh, I see. I've done the X-ray user. I wish. After getting 39 diamonds with my fortune pickaxe, I immediately started mining up to the surface, and on top of getting 39 diamonds, I realized that I reached level 30, so I will also be able to enchant my diamond sword with looting when I get home. I think we all know why Overwatch is not the greatest right now. Also, I'm above Y100, please let me out. Thank you. While running home, I killed a polar bear. When I did eventually get home, I stored everything away and started smelting all the ores that we got. With the diamonds, I made full diamond armor and enchanted my diamond sword, but sadly I only got looting. However, since I did have looting, I went out to try and get some ender pearls. I sadly couldn't find any endermen, but I did find another village. Keep this village in mind, because this village gets absolutely terrorized over the course of the 100 days. Like, actually a ghost town at the end. 10 coal. Fox! Okay, I'm kidnapping a villager. I'm tired of this. You, librarian, get in my boat. Kidnap. I started kidnapping this librarian villager, and it was a bit rough. When I got to the shoreline, I started building a cobblestone hut for the villager. However, I realized that I lived way farther down the river than I thought, so we had to make another boat ride. This time when I got to the shoreline, I could literally see the mansion, so I knew this cobblestone box was close enough. I then went home and crafted a fletching table, so I would be able to mass produce emeralds by trading sticks. I want to avoid it getting eaten. I see the zombie trying to get it already, but you know, it's in a box. Ow! Like, I don't even know where these things are coming from. Oh my god. Can I play the game? There's another one. God. I will bow spam you like you're bow spamming me. You guys are superhumans. Sheesh. Look at that. At this point, I may as well just wear the diamond armor. Because, like, if I get mended, there's more. He converted. Oh no, he didn't. What? Okay! With my villager barely alive, I extended how big his cobblestone box was and made it safer. After making a quick trip to the mansion to grab some beds, I forgot that I was going to turn this guy into a Fletcher and started cycling the librarian's traits to try and get mending. After lots and lots of cycling, I was able to get mending. Don't die. Please. Since I needed a ton of emeralds, I then went back to the Spruce Village and kidnapped another villager. I then saw 2 endermen, but this happened. Come on. No ender pearls? Really? And the other one just decided to leave. You guys see how I got no ender pearls? That is going to be a common occurrence in this playthrough. Every enderman I find, it either teleports away or just doesn't drop ender pearls. Anyways, I made an airlock in order to get my new villager into the box. I then traded a bunch of sticks to get some emeralds and then bought 2 mending books for later. I'm from Canada, so we have to learn French. It's so annoying. Hahaha. Freaking French people. So Ajax, what's the lore on why you make a pit every time you play Minecraft? I thought it'd be funny to start a cult. No, we don't need another cult! Anyways, that just worships a really deep hole. That's funny. I then just spent the rest of the night chopping down trees for sticks. There we go, now we got ender pearls. On day 44, I set out to get some obsidian for another nether portal. I needed to get more blaze rods for the ender dragon, and I still had a bunch of mobs I still needed to hunt down in the nether. However, I found a donkey first. I still needed to kill a donkey for the hunting challenge, but I also needed to kill a mule, which you get by breeding a donkey and a horse. I did find another donkey, so I just killed it. I found some horses in a villager's stable next to it, so I tamed one and brought it over to the donkey, and once I got it into the pit, I bred them. Child. And just as evidence that I killed all 3. Donkey, horse, mule. I didn't own it, so I didn't say in chat, but like... I also said that I don't need to kill variations, but there's a spider jockey here, so why not? I ended up walking all the way back to the strip mine where I found most of my diamonds and headed down there. I went to the lava pit at the bottom of the staircase and got enough obsidian to make a portal. When I got home, I chose a random room in the woodland mansion and placed a portal there. When I went through the portal, I realized we were in a basalt deltas, which basically meant we didn't have a great portal spot. Luckily, I already know where a nether fortress and a piglin bastion are, so I can actually just mine through the basalt deltas to get to them later. How much time do we have left? 2:43. The LA broke free. No, no leaving. Before the day ended, I traded with the villagers again to get even more emeralds and a mending book. The LA also broke free again and left. On day 46, I started off by making Bow Miss Prime. This bow I will be using throughout the entire playthrough, actually. I decided to go to the nether that day, but first I grabbed a pumpkin for the snow golem. I stashed the pumpkin away and started mining towards the old portal. The hope here was to make a nether highway to the old portal so I could have access to the bastion and nether fortress. I mined for a couple of minutes and ended up in another basalt deltas, however this delta is connected to a soul sand valley that the nether fortress is in. Before going there though, I went back and got some fire resist potions just in case. I'm pretty sure I did use them later. I for some reason did get distracted and made a potato farm in my room though. I honestly forgot I did this and I'm pretty sure I moved it later. Anyways, I went back to the nether and killed a strider. I then went through the soul sand valley and made a staircase into the fortress. Baba Booey. I started exploring that said fortress, and let me tell you, the fact that wither skeletons are 3 blocks high is amazing. There was a time where 3 wither skeletons were heading straight towards me, but then they were too tall to get me. I looted both the chests I saw, and they were mid. I found where I blocked off part of the fortress, so I knew I was in my original fortress. I quickly found my way out of the fortress, but a gas scared me away. About 5 minutes later, I did find my original path to my old portal. But first, these piglins started chasing me, so I blocked myself into a corner and attacked them. I do want to murder this guy for his gold armor. That'd be really nice. You think he'll go around this corner? Oh! That was a mistake. Now that I had some gold armor from the piglin, I shouldn't be attacked by any more piglins. We're gonna try not to get hit. That's gonna suck. Ow. I was wearing gold, how dare you. I did find a warped forest, so I could get ender pearls from some endermen, but I'm just gonna save you all the torture. I spent all of day 48 trying to get these ender pearls in this forest. The issue is, when the endermen teleport away, like I said earlier, they would lose aggro and then despawn. I basically just had to get lucky and have one teleport right next to me and give me enough time to kill it. And on top of that, even though I had looting 3, I seemed to barely get ender pearls. Man, I wish I knew what dream felt like. Long story short, I started trading with piglins about 20 minutes later. Now if you thought my enderman luck was bad, my piglin luck was actually better. I ended up getting the ender pearls on day 50. I apparently also got a wither skeleton head at some point, but I don't know when because I was in the nether fortress for like over an hour. I cleaned up my inventory and made 11 Eyes of Ender. That should be enough, right? So it is now time to find the stronghold. And that's sad because they were there for such a long time supporting the stream. You know, I expected that, but how today's been going? After losing an eye basically almost immediately, I then put mending on my diamond sword and named it. There we go, that's a good name. From here I started across the ocean. In the distance, I could see an ice spike biome, so I started ice skating across it. Do you have another portal? Yeah, I already made one. Ow! Oh, I freaking forgot about phantoms. I just wanted to find where it was. Okay, it is after me. Yes, this is gonna really suck. Oh, that's why I hate phantoms so much. I hate them. Why did we vote on this thing? This is why democracy is cringe. No, I'm just kidding.
Democracy is cringe. Read some Aristotle.
I decided to make sure I was going the right direction, and this happened. Yeah, we're gonna go all the way to that village. I hope that's not here. Good. Okay, there's another phantom. Bruh. I just want to mention that I threw 3 Eyes of Ender, and 2 of them broke. Like I said, I wish I knew what dream felt like. Phantoms started spawning, so I found this village and slept in their bed. Now, I'm gonna steal their food, I think. We don't like food. Food? Villagers? Food? Food? It's not food, that's leather. Throughout the night, I farmed strays to get a bunch of arrows for the Ender Dragon fight. Before leaving, I threw an Eye of Ender to see where the stronghold was, and it was under the village. So, I started mining into the hillside. And after a little bit of digging, I immediately found it. I started looting the chest around the place, but do you see this door? This door that looks like it goes absolutely nowhere, well, it actually leads to a one-way staircase directly to the portal. But I turned around and spent 5 minutes looking for it. I started retracing my steps and found the door that led to the portal again. Is this actually it? Yeah, it is. What a weird location. I broke a block to get a silverfish to spawn, and then I realized that I was one eye short. I think I am noticing an unlucky pattern. Since I knew where the portal was, I just went iceboating back and I quickly made my way home. However, I ran into a pillager patrol and got the bad omen effect. It looks like we're doing a raid first. I bone mealed my potato farm and started working on some food. I then started gathering some obsidian. I needed 10 more obsidian in order to make another nether portal, so I mined the edges of my portal and I had 10. The reason that I needed another portal was because I needed to kill a zombie hoglin and a zombie piglin. Why did I get distracted? Like, why did I start doing this? Why didn't I just go fight the ender dragon? Anyways, the plan was to simply capture them in a portal so they would transform in the overworld. Because if you don't know, they have overworld forms. I know I said like variations don't count, but since they have separate spawnings, I said why not? Once I had the materials, I headed to my Crimson Forest. I built the portal and now it was time to corral them in. But first I wanted to see where it went. An issue for a second, is it really above water? Woo! Water! After that very odd nether spawn, I placed some cobblestone down around the portal, but when I tried to get the hoglins in, they didn't want to. Because of that, I broke the side of the portal, and instead I tricked them into getting teleported. I gotta make sure it doesn't. Okay. I killed the zoglin, and it was now time for the piglin. Alright, get in! Getting the piglin in hurt a little bit more, but it was much faster and I was able to get the zombified piglin pretty easily. When I got home, I was about to set out to do a raid, but then I heard a thunderstorm roll in. It was again time to look for a skeleton horse. Whenever there is a thunderstorm, I need to go look for one, because if I don't, I may never get another chance to. The thing is that I didn't find one, so I put mending on my helmet before it broke. I've had full diamond for a long time now, so I was getting worried it would break. I had basically infinite mending books, so I can just always disenchant it later. That morning on day 53, I traveled to a village to do a raid. So by the way, this dark oak forest, if you ever do anything, don't choose a dark oak forest. You've made a mistake, because this is the most inconvenient place I have ever lived. I went to that terrible spruce village since I didn't care about it and started the raid. I was hoping to finish the raid, but if worse comes to worse, we only need to kill a Ravager. No, that's who I was going to protect. Bop, bop, bop. We're protecting him. There we go, he's protected now. We are good. What is he dying to? Really? This raid is gonna fail before it even begins. I finally found the villager to trap, and now I just needed to win the raid. Something that was happening though was that the raid bar was going down. This is because the raid was dying. But to what? The raid is dying. Isn't Iron Golem 1v1ing them? Oh, this is unfortunate. There we go. Oh, I hit him on fire! Yeah, if you didn't know, this snow sucks. But you can place water down. Oh, maybe they're dying in the snow! Oh my god, that's so cool, actually. The snow biome is actually helping me. So yeah, me deciding to do the raid in a dangerously hazardous village was actually a good idea. Or at least it would have been if I didn't have to go into these dangerous caves. Oh, goat! I need to kill a goat. Okay, there we go. Why did I think that the raiders would be under the snow and that the creeper would help me? That's like... There's no caves that close to the surface. Anyways, after I got distracted by that goat, I finally went after the raiders in the caves. I made a tunnel towards the sound and this happened. Imagine the Ravager ran away from you. Ouch.
You've got mail.
Oh! I decided to move the tunnel to a better place and it went much better. They just dropped in and died. I even killed a Ravager. The next rave was really easy, and so was the next one, and the one after that. But the final one was a bit more difficult. Oh, they're here. Ow! These things get targeted because I hate Vexes. I'm surprised they haven't figured out how to get up here. Hello, glitching. This time I had fast enough reaction time. You know, there's a small issue with that. Oh! Okay, they still do 4 hearts of damage. That's insane. Alright, now that they know I'm here. Sheesh! This is actually severely dangerous with an evoker, I think. Hopefully it doesn't... Okay, I've actually decided we can't take this. So the reason we can't take this is because if a Vex spawns, I am screwed. It sounds like a... that's not a good combo. Oh, I don't have any arrows. I don't have very many arrows left. Okay, I don't think we can complete this raid. I don't have enough arrows. Unless if this is the last one, we can't complete it. Oh, that's a Vindicator. Woohoo! Okay, good. I left that village a changed man. A hero, some would say. Anyways, that raid took like 2 days, so I took a pit stop at the villagers to try and buy some arrows. But my Fletcher doesn't sell them, so on day 55, I kidnapped a chicken and made an automatic chicken farm. It is going to take a little bit to get started, but at least I don't have to eat baked potatoes for the entire 100 days. However, the rest of day 55 is not nearly as productive. I decided it'd be a good idea to get the Ocelot kill out the way, but when I mined under that azalea tree I was talking about a long time ago, I found the lush cave, but it was filled with water. H2O. Can't really breathe there. Even though I got the tropical fish out the way, I could not find an axolotl. They are water creatures too, so I have no idea how I couldn't find them. But I will need to find a different lush cave later. At this point, I was getting super worried about the last mobs that we were going to need to kill. In particular, I was worried about the skeleton horse. So I came up with this great idea of placing copper rods on top of my wooden house to get lightning to hit there. If you don't know, skeleton horses only spawn when lightning touches down. That means that I want the lightning to be in a place where I can see the horses spawn. The issue with my plan, though, would be that my house burns down. But also, the skeleton horses don't spawn when lightning hits a copper rod. I didn't know that at the time, and I don't even break them later. Whoops. My mom said I was a mistake. That's very depressing. I heard you laugh. If you haven't noticed, a lot of people are already joining the server. This is because I was streaming this, and a lot of people happen to be awake, so that is cool, because we're going to be fighting the Ender Dragon. By the way, I won't be cowering behind them, because that defeats the purpose of this 100 days. Since I didn't have level 30, I lowered my enchant to see if I could get anything good, but I didn't.
I have no armor. I could go in, but I would die.
Well, we got an unbreaking chestplate and a Death Strider boots. Also, I had to supply gear to the people going to the end fight with me, since most of them joined that day. With my last remaining levels, I put some protection books on my gear, and I felt pretty ready to fight the dragon. The only thing I was missing was arrows, but we had a plan to get more before fighting the Ender Dragon. No, wait for me. I should mention that Sai joined us on the adventure. He started playing this world 10 minutes ago, had no gear, and is already fighting the Ender Dragon. Get in!
Which one do you think is more hot?
Hurry! I'm gonna get a baby zombie in my boat!
Get in, please!
Okay,
this is... baby zombies in my boat!
On our way to the stronghold, we raided a different village to give Sai a chance to get some food, but also to try and get another Fletcher for arrows. The issue is, none of the villagers would change their occupation, even after we broke every workstation in that village. We then made our way over to the stronghold. However, when we got there, I remembered that I didn't have an Eye of Ender. I feel bored. I am not bored, actually. I'm doing pretty good. Hey guys, I just had a realization. We need one more Eye of Ender. I went all the way back home and grabbed some blaze powder, and then I realized I didn't have a single Ender Pearl. So I went to the Nether. Bro. Oh. Okay. I gotta actually be careful here. Oh my god, why does that... It has a sword now! Once I made it to the Crimson Forest, I traded with some piglins, but they kept hunting. Stop hunting! Take gold. Oh, I just dropped my whole stack. I went through 50 gold bars and finally got some ender pearls, which is twice as long as it should take. Like I said, Dream, if you wanna share some of that luck, it'd be nice. No, I vote if you lose, buy a random PS4 game that's below $1 to make a video on it. Sure, I'm okay with that punishment. You know what? I'll buy the Dead by Daylight dating simulator.
No.
I'll do that
Okay,
one.
one.
If I lose, I'll do that. Honestly, if I...
Oh,
yeah, that's what I'll
no.
do. I now have the final Eye of Ender, so we can now fight the Ender Dragon. I can't remember the best way there, but... yeah, we'll just have to kind of crossy road our way there. I just got an Elder Guardian effect. I got mining fatigue randomly from an Elder Guardian, but it shouldn't matter. We got to the portal and placed the eye in. It was now time to fight the Ender Dragon. Oh. We're stuck! Yeah, you know how I said the mining fatigue shouldn't be a problem? Well, it really wasn't because Chris was there and he didn't have mining fatigue. It was also about to wear off anyways. But enough delays, time for the Ender Dragon. Alright, Sai, here's a water bucket. If you get attacked by an Enderman, just place it down. So what I do every time is I always place water just everywhere. So if you ever get attacked, you just kind of go to it.
No, I didn't. Okay, never mind.
Also, they changed the arrow projectiles. It's so nice. At least it would be if I could hit stuff. Sai is literally about to kill the Ender Dragon.
How?
I know, right? Wait, is this... are we actually gonna get away with this?
Help with this.
Okay. I actually think if we actually did the bed stuff, we could actually get away with that. I'm just gonna go up here. I'm on PC right now. Tell me if it's coming towards me. Also, why is the Ender Dragon not regenerating? Maybe it'll do it if it's like... whatever it's called.
We got a couple of them, didn't we? Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm lucky. Whatever.
He did so much damage. He literally had an iron pickaxe, and he was just... I just looked at the Ender Dragon's health and like, wait, how in the world?
Try to go for the ones that are inconveniently placed. Okay, never mind.
This is actually the one I'm scared of because it's near a cliff, and I don't know if you've ever been juggled by the Bedrock Ender Dragon, but... yeah. You know what? I don't even care about the bed strat.
Did my axe burn? Oh my
god.
I'm sigh.
Do you want my axe here?
That's fine, don't worry about it.
Oh, here you go.
Okay.
Myself. See, you can't spam this thing, or else it actually does less. Oh no, did Sai look at it? Who looked at this thing? Give me sword. I'm not giving you my sword. Alright.
Nice.
With enough time, I beat the Ender Dragon with someone I just gave gear to and someone who had nothing. Before we left though, I needed to go to the End City. I wanted to get some shulker boxes and get an elytra immediately because I have a feeling we're gonna need an elytra later. Hint hint, I do actually use an elytra later. I'm just marking the bottom of it for later. I got a couple of Ender Pearls and then teleported through the portal. Ooh, is my luck gonna... okay, I'm gonna be honest, this world has been, luck-wise, pretty decent. Oh my god. Never mind, luck-wise pretty good. But then on the other side, it has been terrible. It's either my luck has been amazing or terrible. I spawned with 2 end cities next to me, and one of them had a boat. I went into the one without a boat and started clearing it out. So I need sharpness. What hacks? Guys, have you seen the Endermen and their pearl drops, okay? If I was hacking, that would not be happening.
Hey.
I have actually not used chunk base. Someone told me about it, I think, last stream too. So accuse me all you want. But I don't know how I would have even done that, actually. How would I have used chunk base to predict where my teleporter would go? Can you do autism test live? Yes, I'll do autism test live later. I got a couple of good items from the chest, including a good shovel and a backup pickaxe, but I couldn't get a single shulker shell, which is ironic, because I was just talking about how mobs weren't dropping anything, even when I have looting 3. Ow, stop pelting me with your bubbles.
Wish that was me.
While clearing up the second city, I started getting some shulker shells, and the loot was getting better. There were no more chests, so I bridged over to the boat and got the elytra. I actually got some pretty amazing gear from the end cities, and I honestly think that I now have good enough gear that I won't have to focus on gear for the rest of the video. I mean, I'll get netherite later, but that's just for later. For now, I ender pearled through the portal, grabbed the dragon egg, and teleported home. I then combined some of the gear to put protection 3 on everything except for my boots. Then day 60 rolled around, and something interesting happened. Invest.
Invest
Someone
in the
subscribed.
stock. Yo.
Thank you, Ali, for subscribing. And having a
Nice.
public account. Oh my god, another
Play
one.
tip $1, do autism test.
Yes! Guys, that's the first tip we've ever had. Hang on, who was that? I can't see it. Let me pull up Stream Elements real quick. Do autism test. You spent $1 to tell me to do the autism test.
I feel like you have to do it now.
Online test for adult autism. We'll do this one first.
Oh, great.
Okay, question. I prefer to do my things on my own rather than others. Agree. Sometimes people say I'm rude even when I think I'm being polite. Not really. I mean,
Yes.
Chris?
I'm kidding.
Definitely disagree. Which Minecraft version are you playing in? I'm playing the autism one. I am often the last person to understand the joke. I like doing... I mean, okay, it depends. If you're talking about when Will says a joke, I'm typically the first one. When somebody says hamster in my stream, I was the last one. I can tell if somebody I am talking to gets bored. Sometimes... How autistic am I? You show many of the autistic traits of being autistic.
Uh-oh.
Alright guys, can confirm I am very slightly autistic. It's fine. Yeah, sorry, Fearful. You only get the first test. At least you didn't spend $10 for a result that didn't work. If
Well, if you spend another $10, you'll do another one.
I know, I will not do another autism test. While the autism test was going on, I asked Chris to make a bamboo XP farm, which sounds really stupid because it is. What I meant at the time was a kelp farm. We realized later that it wasn't a bamboo farm that we needed, so just ignore the random bamboo farm there. In the meantime, I went back to the end to try and get an endermite spawn. Remember that I need to kill one of each mob before the 100 days in order for it to be successful. And after about 25 ender pearls, I finally got one. But I don't care. It doesn't. Oh, endermite! Endermite! Oh no, they're killing him. I gotta get a hit in. Screw you. According to the rules we set, since I technically got the endermite killed since I spawned it, it counted. But I was going to try and be thorough and get another one. But after 20 more ender pearls, my stream started getting bored and said that the first endermite counted. Day 61 was a very stupid day. Chris and I worked on the bamboo farm. Again, I don't need a bamboo farm. I need a kelp XP farm. Day 62 snuck up on us, and I did something that would have a rippling effect in the future. I threw some eggs into the chicken farm to try and get more eggs, but I created a staircase up to the chicken, and I'm not going to say how this affects us, but just wait till later. I finished collecting the supplies for Chris to make a bamboo farm, and then started doing some generic housework like cleaning the dirt in front of our mansion. I then used that dirt behind my room to make an indoor farm. It doesn't look very good, but whatever. On day 63, I was craving adventure. I decided that it would be a great idea to go to the Piglin Bastion and kill a Piglin Brute. It took the entire day to get there, and I anticlimactically shot it and killed it. I then didn't even bother looting it because I had an entire Piglin Bastion on me. While I was in the nether, I grabbed some warped nylium and a warped fungus. Why did I do this? Well, they are going to come in handy when I fight the Wither. The Bedrock Wither is much harder than Java. So I did some research and found an amazing way to fight the Wither. Just wait and see. Chris finished the bamboo farm, which we didn't need. And I went back to the nether to get a Wither skeleton head. No head. Remember guys, we want head.
You can't cook bamboo.
I got a head. You can't?
No, you can't.
This pigman just picked up my skull.
Unless if you use it for, what is it?
It's
to
fuel.
actually cook stuff with.
It's
but...
fuel. It's for fuel. Also, as you heard, that is when I realized that we didn't need a bamboo farm, and I remembered that we needed a kelp farm instead. That is something we will have to fix later, though. However, we got the final Wither Skeleton Skull, and it was now time to get my master plan in action. Also, I just gotta go back on this. I just realized we actually never built the kelp farm. I've been talking about how we're gonna do this later, and I just realized we never did that. Oh well. It looks like we just have the bamboo farm. Great. We're just all pandas now. Anyways, I ran back home and acquired everything that I needed for the wither. The final thing that I did need to make, though, was the locator map, because I did not want to mess this up. Basically, the wither will move a little bit after being spawned in, and I need the wither to spawn exactly where I want it to.
Take it.
Also, where's your crafting table?
It's in the corner.
It's in the corner!
It's in the corner.
Is this like your least favorite child or something?
Kinda, compared to everything else in here, yeah.
After I made the locator map, we traveled to the end. There is men. Anyways, after I found some men, I placed a warped fungus under the end gateway and bone mealed it. The reason I did that was to break the actual portal part so you could no longer teleport. That is why I need to get an elytra before breaking it, so I could go back to the end cities whenever I wanted. Anyways, I used the map to figure out exactly where the wither will spawn, and place the pieces to fight the wither. Alright.
Stop looking at me, you stupid Enderman.
Please work. Yes!
Holy.
Okay, Chris, don't get hit. After a very entertaining viewing of the wither suffocating in Bedrock, I managed to get the Nether Star. I'm gonna put coal in there. Did you just break my anvil?
No.
Then where is it? After repairing my anvil that suspiciously broke, I found my house. Who made this? Chris, did you make this?
I probably didn't, but let's see what you're talking about. What?
Okay, my house, Kendallar's house. Also, remember that axe that I gave Chris in the end? He still has it, named after a viewer for, like, absolutely no reason. We like Amelia, though.
I made you a new anvil to replace the anvil that I broke, and now there's an anvil here.
Oh, just put it on top of the wither skeleton head.
It looks so out of place. Okay.
There we go. And then I actually have no idea what I did for the rest of the day. It looks like I grabbed my elytra and started flying around, but I don't remember why I did this. Oh, I went out to kill a guardian because I forgot to. While I was over there, Ajax also said to check out the hole. Oh, yeah, where's your hole? Oh. There it is. So this is Ajax's hole. It goes down to Bedrock, I'm guessing. I'm not going down it without her, so we're just gonna leave it alone. I also killed a bee, so this late night hunting was actually very productive. I didn't know what I did on day 67, but then I heard this. Do we see any llamas? Does the wandering trader llama count is the question? Because, like, it is a llama. But I mean, is it a llama? It looks like I started to look for a savanna biome, which can have llamas. But then I got distracted by a swamp since I haven't found one of those frog boys. Unfortunately, I forgot to put unbreaking on my elytra before using it, and I had to take the nether highway back home so I wouldn't break them. I'm gonna be honest, I went through the portal and I was so confused. Chris decorated our nether room while I was gone, and it looks nice.
Yeah, Rendell.
He wants me to see. Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen my quote-unquote house. I'm not getting into my dog pen. I realized that I needed unbreaking on my elytra and prepared to go kidnap a third villager. It took me a long time, but I found another villager. I'm pretty sure that every villager besides this one has died. I remember this village becoming a wasteland, and it is kind of sad to see it slowly getting abandoned again. Anyways, I kidnapped the villager and put him in the box. I made a lectern and started cycling trades. I could not get unbreaking for the life of me though. It took me 18 minutes, but I finally got unbreaking 2 on day 69.
Nice.
And I didn't bother going for unbreaking 3. I spent the rest of the day chopping sticks for my Fletcher. I then realized that I would need another Fletcher because my Fletcher kept locking his trades. So, on day 70, I went and got the final villager from that spruce village. The village is now officially empty. I turned him into a Fletcher and started trading sticks to get my first few unbreaking books. I then did an epic face reveal. Based Mendel face reveal 1. If you get, not to plug the 100 days video for the 1 millionth time, but it's in there. Which, by the way, if you are new here, remember to like and subscribe. I just have to say that. I'm sorry. Okay, don't hurt me. I love how your face is in multiple things. I know, right? Like, I don't want to hide it because... And also, look, face reveal. Guys, face reveal. I locked both Fletcher's trades, so I needed to wait another day in order to get the last Unbreaking book I wanted. Sleep! Slumber! Sleep. Why aren't they sleeping? They're angry now. On day 71, I finally got the second Unbreaking book and put them on my wings. Also, remember how I said on day 65 I remembered how I needed a kelp farm and not a bamboo farm? Well, that wasn't true, because after I put Unbreaking on my elytra, I tried to get XP from it. Now I'm lost. I forgot what you're supposed to do with this. Maybe it was a kelp farm. I'm dumb. It's a kelp farm. So yeah, I did remember that I built the wrong farm. I am actually stupid. I apologize. I forgot. It was... I think it's kelp that I need to do. Oh well, at least we got our chickens. And I'm not gonna cost the whole game lag this time. On the bright side, I expanded the chicken farm, and now it was time to start shooting chickens out. The next morning, I bought some arrows from my Fletchers because I wanted to kill a warden. I knew only the basics of this guy at the time, so I wanted to make sure I had enough arrows to kill him. It was now time to travel back to where I first saw some skulk blocks. Yeah, no, it's almost 11 o'clock.
I wanna see where it is.
Grape jelly!
Thank you for the subscription. I actually did not pull up stream elements today, so thank you to Builder. Wait, hang on, how does that work? I thought you were subscribed to me already, lol. Oh, resubbed, okay. So are you able to spam that? I hope not. It's gonna be a really, really loud noise for 10 seconds.
I wanna see where it is.
Grape jelly!
Thank you to Peanut Butter for subscribing. Sorry, I love that noise so much.
I wanna see where it is.
Guys, stop! After finding a bunch of grape jelly, I started digging into the cave. Once I was down there, I went to the skulk area and started strip mining until I found an ancient city. Oh wait, no I didn't. I built a useless trap first because I didn't understand that you needed a streaker in order for a warden spawn, so I wasted half of day 73 doing that. But then, I started strip mining to try and find an ancient city. I got a giant iron brain.
Hello there.
I just look behind me and Anthony's somehow here. I ran into more skulks, so I knew I was probably going the right direction, and with some help from my friend Soupy, I eventually found the ancient city on day 74. During this time, I learned a little bit about the warden. Basically, he will despawn after 60 seconds if he doesn't detect anything, and he has a sonic attack that will go through walls for up to 20 blocks horizontally. So, I created a simple trap. I first mined 25 blocks back so I had a safety room from the warden. I mined a 4x2x2 into the ground so the warden would get stuck in there. I placed trapdoors on top of that and opened them so the warden would fall through it. And the plan was just to get it angry at me and then shoot it with arrows once I was safe. Now for the terrifying part. Imagine I mess up this jump. That is my biggest fear. Practice. Okay. I hate this. So we want to set that thing off. So what's funny is I actually grabbed one of these things. Now, I don't know if you know, ooh, I made some noise. Oh, it spawned! It actually didn't spawn because I didn't know at the time that Shriekers just sometimes gave you blindness. But I do know when it does spawn because I learned what the noise sounds like when the warden spawns later. Hello, Squid. Here we go. Oh, now he spawned! Now he spawned! Okay! Not to sound anticlimactic, but after I got the spoil into the hole, I just shot him with arrows and that was it. It was actually a really easy way to kill a warden, but watch this. Oh, he's dead. Alright, we killed the warden. Now, you may say, that's pretty easy, right? Well, imagine if I didn't have the trap. No? Come on. Oh! I spawned another one! Also, I should probably mention that this is before I knew that wool sucked up sound, and I also didn't know that the warden would despawn, so I thought I would have to kill another one. Honestly, I might just head out. This is the hardcore world. I can deal with it later. Oh wait, is he just gone? I just pussied out. I didn't want to mess with any more one-shot machines, so I just left. I think we're gonna go for an axolotl as our next hardest. Well, our top hardest is the skeleton horse. But the second is the axolotl. We also have to find a mangrove swamp. We also have to find a desert. We have to find a savanna too, and I think that's it. And then we complete it. So we have, I think, 8 hours left. Leave the axolotls alone. Hey, I've killed one of every mob, and the axolotl has not been one of them. You cannot save them from their own destiny. Yeah, right now we are actually on a time crunch. Because we really need that skeleton horse, and once we get that, I mean, like, it's literally just finding the rest of the biomes, and we're done. That same day, I actually realized that the bamboo farm was not completely useless. I could use the bamboo as fuel for smelting stuff, and then grab that stuff for some XP. It wasn't super efficient, but it also gave me just some XP. Also, Chris started decorating his room, and it looked nice. Also, for like the 20th time, he destroyed the staircase that went to the 3rd floor, and later when I tried to go up there, I just kind of stared at where it was, and I was like, wait, what happened? Hamburger, cheeseburger, Big Mac, Whopper. Moving on, I spent the rest of day 75 smelting a ton of stuff to repair my elytra. I also realized that killing mobs on my roof was also a great idea because it helped me get a lot of XP. We didn't have a mob spawner, so this huge area works too. Once my elytra was mostly repaired, I flew over to the savannah village and looked for a llama. I found some pretty quickly and eliminated them. Now that I had unbreaking on my elytra, I was able to fly around for much longer. That night I found a desert biome, which meant I was able to check a husk off our list. Since I was in an open area, I also spent a decent amount of time repairing my elytra again. I wanted to find some desert temples since that was an amazing simple way to get gunpowder. However, I found something even better. Also, there's a desert temple underwater here. The reason I'm so fascinated with it is because this is a lukewarm ocean. Point is that pufferfish can spawn here, and pufferfish is one of the last things I need. And this is a coral biome, so maybe they can't spawn like directly here, but they should be able to spawn around here. Because this should be considered a warmer... Oh, there they are. Oh, come on. There we go. Alright, you got the pufferfish done. Day 77 was just me flying around the map looking for a mangrove swamp. While I was looking, Wolfie said they found a lush cave under our mansion, so I could find an axolotl at any time.
What the frick are the frogs? I don't know, dude.
I sent the quiz in Discord. You got a balance.
I found a frog!
See you later. Wait, you found the frog?
Yeah.
Frog! On top of Wolfie finding a lush cave, Chris found a swamp biome that had frogs in it. I immediately turned around and flew back towards the swamp by our house. By the way, I thought that frogs only spawned in mangrove swamps at the time, but I guess they also spawned in regular swamps, so I didn't know that. It was night when I got there, so Chris made me a little shack.
Come in. Hello. They're chilling in the boat.
Mate.
Have babies.
Be free. Lay eggs. Go. Freedom. Lay the eggs, you freaking amphibians.
The power of babies, please.
Is this one the mother? You can do it.
Flip it over.
You can do it.
Check.
It's gone. Oh, there it is. The tadpole eggs kind of confused us, so we started protecting them like turtle eggs, but then this happened. Use a bucket with no water.
So yeah, I can try with water.
Oh, I think they're talking about the frog, maybe. And not,
So,
not
fun fact, it didn't work. We might need more slime balls.
Did you break the children? Chris. Does this count as a chicken jockey? I guess not. Not much chicken going on there. Wait, hang on. If I get that zombie on a chicken, does that count as a chicken jockey? Like I said, I don't need to kill a chicken jockey, but I found a chicken and put the baby zombie on it, so if anyone cares, I killed the chicken jockey. While I was killing the chicken jockey, though, Chris actually found the regular tadpole in the wild.
Which one do you want to kill? The one on the left, which is the mother, the one on the right, which is the alpha male.
Dang.
Oh man, he killed dad. Here's the tadpole.
Oh.
There you go.
Yeah!
Can I take this frog with me? No? Okay.
Now that we have killed all those mobs, we have 2 left, the axolotl and the skeleton horse. I'm gonna be honest, I knew the skeleton horse was going to be a pain, because it can only spawn during a thunderstorm, so we literally just have to get lucky. In the meantime, we still had to kill an axolotl sadly. But before I got a chance to hunt one down, it started raining. I waited for the entire day for it to start thunderstorming, but it didn't. So I started mining down towards where the lush cave is. I dug a staircase to the coordinates and then mined straight down, and then I almost hit bedrock. I then realized I got the coordinates wrong and mined to the correct location. Or I would have mined to the correct location, but I ran into somebody else's strip mine and found my way from there. I quickly found an axolotl, but Wolfie said that I had to keep one because they wanted one and they also found it, so I boxed the axolotl for them later, and I'm going to be honest, that was a dumb idea, because it later died since it needed a 2 deep block water source and I only gave it 1. I also could have put it in my water bucket, so again I was kind of stupid, whoops again. I then spent 20 minutes looking for another axolotl in the stupid lush cave. Wolfie wanting an axolotl single-handedly made me waste an entire day looking for one of these aquatic creatures. Anyways, I found one in the middle of day 80, so we have now only one rare skeleton horse to kill. I always seem to have one and never have a huge issue finding one in the first couple of thunderstorms. However, this time, of course, when I actually needed one, I have not gotten a single skeleton horse. So we will just have to keep ourselves busy until we find one. Oh. Okay, that works. That's one way to get your dragon egg. On day 81, I decided to get a full netherite set, as that would be a good use of time. But instead, I started running around the plains biome. It was raining, so I was hoping a thunderstorm would start, but that would be too easy and the thunderstorm did not happen. I for some reason also flew to 0-0 just because I wanted to know what was there, but it was just an ocean, so that was boring. I also stopped by Major Colton's old house and sheared his sheep to make beds for the nether. I guess this adventure wasn't completely useless. I then used my old nether portal to go to the nether and start mining for netherite with only 5 beds. Don't know why I didn't go home and get more beds, but I ended up finding 4 ancient debris, so I guess it was worth it. But then I got home on day 83, and I don't know who remembers, but I said something about chicken farms and causing issues, and it was now that time. But then he got it banned again. Also, it is lagging. What happened here? Why is my game dropping frames? I gotta check the chicken farm. Huh, interesting. Oh! I know what's happening! It's happening again! It's happening again!
Hmm?
Remember when I, I made a chicken farm and it lagged like the whole entire game?
Yeah.
I forgot why it did that. It's because they jumped back in. Oh my god. I needed to... I was like, why am I dropping frames? My chicken farm... See, look, this is what they do. And then it's like astronomical how long it goes for.
That's a lot of chickens. Holy crud.
My elytra is fully healed after that. If you don't know, baby chickens will try and pathfind towards the adult chickens, and therefore the baby chicken will climb up the staircase and fall into the chicken pit with the adults. But that will add chickens exponentially into the farm. Well, at least now we have enough food for the rest of the 100 days. After the chicken fiasco, I decided to go tear down this wall so I could see outside for when it eventually thunderstorms. I'm just basically waiting for that skeleton horse. I tried making it look fancy, but I sort of gave up quickly. I also finally tore down Major Colton's petting zoo because I knew he wouldn't be there for the last 100 days. I then ate a hamburger. Getting hamburger.
Cheeseburger, Big Mac, Whopper.
You know, a hamburger sounds great right now. I wish I had a hamburger right now. Anyways, I just kind of walked around while eating my hamburger for the rest of the day. I went underground to lead Wolfie's axolotl to the surface, but quickly realized it was just dead. I just started wandering the caves while eating my food, and randomly I found diamonds in the mine shaft. I was just wasting time trying to get iron and gold for a max level beacon, but I don't think we finished it. On day 85, I was still eating my hamburger. I don't know why I thought this was important to put in the script, but hey, it's here. I guess I really like that hamburger. Anyways, I got out of the mines, and a ghost attacked me.
Get away. Get away.
I broke a potato. No, he's gone. He's gone. I mean, he's not gone. I see the flying chicken again, but... There we go. I shot the spooky ghost and moved on. However, another ghost was in our mansion, and we basically were just ghost hunting for the rest of the day. Literally, like, we were just screwing around for the last, like, 20 days. Before the next day started, though, I destroyed the potato farm in my room since we didn't need it anymore. And we just had another potato farm, like, just behind my room, too, so we had 2, and we had chickens, and we had enough food. On day 86, I attempted to make a barrel storage. However, this is me we're talking about. I ended up placing those barrels and then not organizing it. The reason I mentioned those barrels though was because I wanted blackstone, but I didn't have enough. That reminded me that we could go and raid the Piglin Bastion for it. Chris, Sai, Glitchin, and I made our way through the nether portal and to the Piglin Bastion. Sai got lost or something on the way there because he apparently isn't there anymore. Also, I should mention that Glitchin has invisibility from his invisibility potions, and that will be very important later. I started off by immediately opening a chest and it had nothing good in it. While exploring, Glitchin was revealed for a second and the piglins got mad at him. So I killed them, but now the piglins were mad at me. Glitchin then got stuck on the lower levels, so I jumped down there to help him, and that was a terrible idea.
Should have a bow right now. Yeah.
Oh my god!
That's all you need.
I'm safe. Is there a magma cube spawner? After mining away from the cubes, I realized that because I did that, Glitchin was able to sneak behind everything and grab all the loot, so we just headed out without being too greedy. Oh wait, never mind, we got too greedy. Alright, oh!
Holy crap, there's 3 of them. Oh, there's more.
Oh my god!
Oh my gosh, dude! I have half a heart, half a heart. No!
I told you that's why we leave. Like I said earlier, it only matters if I die in this world, and since I didn't die, the 100 days is still on. And I'm not hiding behind my friends in this world. As you saw, I did the risky task of leading the cubes away from the loot, and I survived the piglin onslaught, so I'm not getting carried through this bastion. I am still putting my life at risk and doing most of the work. When Chris got his stuff, I grabbed some blackstone, and we actually left this time. When we got home, I used the netherite to make my sword and chestplate netherite and save the rest for later. The next day, I silk touched a bunch of packed ice that I won't use because I never made the nether highway during this 100 days. I also moved the spawn nether portal to Ajax's house, and like I said, it didn't really matter since we just never ended up doing it. But here's the deal. It started raining. Now, this was huge since the skeleton horse could spawn if it was thunderstorming. You may have noticed, but there are around 5 people playing this world because they all agreed to help me look for a skeleton horse. And the reason I'm saying all this is because the hunt is on. It's thundering.
Huh?
It's thundering. It's thundering. Alert! It's thundering! It's thundering! Everyone get into an area where a horse can spawn! I just want a skeleton trap to spawn somewhere. Okay, over here. I'm gonna go to the lightning over here. Yeah, we just have to be in the plains biome and look. That was really close. Man, it's like finding a shiny Pokemon or like a legendary Pokemon. I hate it.
I'm looking intensely.
Ah, it's over. It could still be like here because it does take 15 minutes to despawn, but you know. All right, we gotta hope for another thunderstorm. That's why we need to be ready. Because as you can see, it's not guaranteed at all. So yeah, let me actually change my medicine timer because I did just realize that it's set for a time.
Glitchin said he found one.
I don't believe it. Can you go check, Fearful? He did? He found one?
Oh my gosh.
There is no shot he actually found one. For any of you who don't stalk me, Glitchin asked me earlier, he said, can I get a glow squid roll? And I said, you could 100% get one if you find a skeleton horse. So that's funny. Man, maybe this challenge, isn't as hard as I thought it would be if you actually used the best strategies.
Imagine it's just a sign that says skeleton horse. I've done that before one time.
Alright. Yeah, you're right. Okay, yeah, they could spawn here. So yeah, I'd believe that it spawned here. 2549. I see him. It is just a sign that says skeleton horse. Okay.
Is it really?
Yeah. No, he hid them. Did he really hide them? I don't believe it. Yeah, no, I'm not a very fun person to mess with, I guess. Because I just... under the dirt. You know, I did see the dirt, but I didn't want to do anything with it. I lost it. Oh, they're actually here. Okay. No, they're here.
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
Nice.
We completed it, Glitchin. I know I can't see. Yeah. Yeah. One of them died because there's only 3 of them, but I think a lot of us have seen those 100 days where something happens so perfectly that you think that the video is fake. The actual depression that I had when I saw the sign that said skeleton horse, I actually was about to quit the world for the day. I did not want to fail this challenge due to a luck-based spawn. And you heard my excitement when I actually believed Glitchin found it versus when I saw them. I was genuinely depressed from when I saw that the skeleton horses weren't there and I was about to quit, like I said. Even when I completed the entire challenge for this 100 days, I sounded so depressed because of the sadness I had of getting pranked and thinking that I wasn't going to complete it. I legit thought I was going to fail this challenge, but luckily we completed it on day 89. However, we still had 10 days left to go. Since Glitchin found the skeleton horse, we decided to make a giant glow squid since that is his favorite mob in Minecraft. But first, I went back to the nether to quickly grab some glowstone to make my barrel storage look better. I then spent all the way into day 92 organizing my barrels, which I said I didn't do, but apparently I did. I think Fearful just organizes them even better later. You may be wondering why it took me so long to organize them, even though I said I only had 9 days left. Well, I was just talking to stream chat throughout this process, and we decided that we would just play the world past 100 days, just not in this video. If I make it past 100 days, I will keep playing this world. Then I can make like a funny moments or something using the clips. But like I said, that's not this video. We then started celebrating. They're making zombie noises. They're just messing with me. Little party. Yeah! Woo, party! They're making zombie noises just to mess with me. Woo! They have no firework stars. Let's go! On day 92, we did an adventure to get some sponges from the water temple, which I said we would do. The issue is that the nether portal was broken, so I had to go back and reopen it from the overworld, which took an entire day. I entered the water temple to quickly get some sponges, but I had water breathing and I don't think my friends knew that at the time. I think they just thought that there was air bubbles in there and that I just went in there because there was air bubbles, but there wasn't, so they started drowning. I wonder if I can mine it faster with something with efficiency. No, I can't. That's unfortunate. You're gonna drown. Anyways, could have at least waited for me to like try to make an air pocket for you. Glitcher right here! Glitcher right here! Air pocket! Air pocket! Air pocket up here, Glitchin! Glitchin up here! Why'd you follow us? You have invisibility potions, but you don't have water breathing. The next day, we kidnapped sheep. We finally decided to make the giant glow squid out of wool, so we would need a sheep farm for the wool. Glitchin, who at this point was the master of hunting things, found 2 sheep and brought them to the mansion. We bred them and put them in the stables. That night, I went over to the desert and grabbed a few cacti so we could make some cyan wool. I then put more grass into the sheep farm and kept farming the sheep. Out of nowhere, I set up a level 1 beacon, so I guess that is cool. I honestly just now realized how unproductive we were in the last 10 days, like we didn't do that much. Yeah, who was the weirdo that blocked off the staircase? Oh, it was Chris! Chris is the weirdo. On day 96, and I am not joking, we covered the mansion in water. Why did we do this? Because we wanted to burn down the forest. That is actually the answer, and that is actually why. And we covered it in water just so we didn't light the mansion on fire. Anyways, we started burning down the forest once we felt like the mansion was protected. We gotta start lighting stuff on fire! Okay, apparently mushrooms don't light on fire. I'm dumb. Oh. So by the way, fire safety number 1. Have a water bucket on you. Completely light everything on fire. This is great. Does this look good to you guys? I don't know, I think we need a little more. Man, look at all the fire. Like I said, I wish we had more people so we could commit more arson, but there's still fires going. We kept starting fires for 15 minutes, and I was disappointed with the results. That is probably because forest fires in Minecraft just suck. I wish they just burnt down everything for miles, but that would probably cause too much lag, and anyways, we started getting bored and we just started messing around again. But then, I remembered the giant glow squid. I went back over to the water temple and grabbed a bunch of sea lanterns so we could just have a bunch of glow lanterns as glow spots. And not to be anticlimactic again, but we literally just sheared sheep and built the glow squid for the last 2 days. I avoided lumping days together in this 100 days as much as I could, but we honestly just didn't do anything for the last 2 hours. Actually, heck, we didn't do anything for the last like 10 days, which is like 2.5 hours. Anyways, I didn't finish the glow squid during the 100 days, so here's a clip of me finishing it past 100 days, which, like I said, we did multiple streams afterwards. I think we actually are now on like day 300 something because I decided to stream while editing the video. Well, not literally, you know what I mean, like I edited it, then I streamed later, just for the fun of it. Honestly, this ending was very anticlimactic as we finished the challenge on day 89, so next time I'll try and get a challenge that we can actually do on the end of the 100 days, rather than just finishing it early. But with that being said, this hunter challenge was actually really fun. Looking back, I wish I had made a house that was themed around trophy hunting, but I guess we can just do that another time. I don't know. It's kind of cool that we took over like a mansion, because you know how trophy hunters always have a fancy mansion and they put their trophies on the wall, which we kind of did with the wither skeleton heads and the ender dragon head, but besides the point. Like, have you seen the movie Up? He has like a cool mansion, I think. Wait, wasn't it like a blimp? I don't know, we'll see. Anyways, if you want to try this yourself, all you gotta do is load up a Minecraft world and kill one of each mob. And hey, if you kill every mob before day 89, tell me down in the comments. Until then, like and subscribe, and I will see you all later.